When I say my life turned into a twisted soap opera, I'm not exaggerating. Because the day I found out my husband had been cheating on me with my own sister was the day something inside me broke forever. We'd been married for 5 years, and my sister was my best friend, always around the house, helping with our baby, staying over to keep me company whenever he worked late, which, in hindsight, was the biggest joke. One random night, his phone lit up while he was in the shower, and curiosity turned to shock when I saw her name with messages that made my stomach drop. "I miss last night. You taste like sin, and she'll never know." My hands were shaking so badly I could barely scroll, but the photos told me everything I needed to see. I didn't scream, I didn't cry. Something cold and calculating settled inside me. For weeks, I acted normal, quietly gathering evidence, pretending not to know, until his father came to stay with us after knee surgery. His dad had always been kind, respectful, even telling me once that if his son ever hurt me, he'd lose the best thing in his life. One night after everyone was asleep, we sat talking over whiskey in the kitchen. He noticed the sadness in my eyes, asked what was wrong, and when I finally broke down and told him everything, his face hardened in disgust. He said, "That boy doesn't deserve you," and in that moment, one impulsive, dangerous thought flickered between us. It started with a comforting touch, then a kiss that shouldn't have happened, but once it did, neither of us stopped. It was wild, angry, wrong in every moral sense, yet it made me feel powerful again after months of humiliation. I started meeting him secretly in hotels, in his car, even once in the house when my husband was at work. Every time, I thought about how betrayal felt on both sides now, equal, sharp, and irreversible. Eventually, my husband found out, not because I confessed, but because his dad did. He couldn't live with the guilt. The explosion that followed was chaos. My sister tried to blame me, my husband called me disgusting, and his mother practically fainted. But I didn't care anymore. I'd already lost everything the moment they chose to betray me first. I moved out, filed for divorce, and cut off my sister forever. His father moved to another state after the scandal, and though we haven't spoken in months, sometimes I still think about the night it all began. How two broken people found revenge and comfort in the same fire that burned everything else to ashes. After the divorce papers were filed, my whole world became a mix of gossip, judgment, and twisted satisfaction. My family took my sister's side at first because she played the victim perfectly, crying about how it just happened, and claiming my husband manipulated her, which was rich considering the texts I still had that said otherwise. My ex-husband tried to ruin me publicly, telling anyone who'd listen that I'd destroyed his family by sleeping with his father. But what he conveniently left out was how he destroyed mine first. His father tried to apologize over and over, saying he never meant to drag me into something so messy, but I told him I didn't regret it, because for the first time in years, I stopped feeling powerless. The whole town found out eventually, and people whispered in grocery stores. Coworkers stared longer than they should have, and even my sister had the audacity to post a quote about forgiveness on Instagram while still living with my ex like some prize she'd won. Meanwhile, I focused on myself, therapy, gym, a new apartment, and a new job far away from that toxic circle. Months passed before I got a letter from his dad saying he'd moved, divorced his wife, and wished me peace. It was bittersweet because despite the chaos, he'd treated me with more honesty than anyone else had in years. My ex and sister didn't last long. One night, he got drunk, screamed at her in public, and neighbors called the police. That was the last I ever heard of their fairy tale. A year passed, and just when I thought life had finally quieted down, the ghosts of my past started knocking again, literally. One rainy afternoon, my doorbell rang, and when I opened it, my sister was standing there, drenched and shaking, her mascara running down her face like she'd just stepped out of a bad dream. I hadn't seen her since the day I walked out of that house. For a few seconds, I just stared, frozen between fury and pity. She started crying, saying she was sorry that my ex had become cruel and controlling, that he'd hit her, that she finally understood what kind of man he really was. She begged for forgiveness, saying she couldn't sleep knowing what she'd done to me. I wanted to slam the door in her face, but part of me knew that closure only comes when you stop letting pain have power over you. So I listened. I told her I forgave her, not because she deserved it, but because I was tired of carrying her sin on my shoulders. She left in tears, and for the first time I didn't feel anger, just relief. A few weeks later, I got another surprise, a message from my ex-father-in-law. He said he was back in town, that he'd been sober for months, and he wanted to see me just to talk. I hesitated for days, but curiosity won. When we met at a small cafe outside the city, the moment I saw him, the old tension came flooding back. Different this time, calmer, like we both understood that what happened between us was a storm we'd survived, not something to repeat. We talked for hours about regret, forgiveness, and how sometimes life forces you to burn bridges so you can finally see where you stand. When I left, he hugged me softly and whispered, "You deserved better, and I hope you find it." That night, I sat alone in my apartment, no tears, no bitterness, just peace. For the first time in years, I realized I wasn't defined by betrayal or revenge anymore. I was simply a woman who had lost everything, rebuilt herself from the ashes, and finally found strength in her own silence.